e dase karuna kori. Oh hey Vaishnava Saku Doyara Sagara Idase Karuna Kori. Diya Parachaya Shoro he amar tumara charana dori. Chaya vega doni, chaya dosha shohi, chaya guna deho dase. Chaya satsanga deho he amare boshashi sangera ashe. Ekaki amar nahi par balo harinama sankirtane. Tumi kripa kore sharavindu diya deho Krishna nama dhane. Krishna se tomar, Krishna jite paro, tomara shakti ache. Amito kanga, Krishna Krishna boli, daita ba pache pache. Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Joyara Sagara Idate Karuna Kori. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Ujjvala Varana Gora Varadeham Vilasita Niravare Bhava Videham. Sri Bhuvana Pavana Krupaya Lesham Shankana Mamitra Shri Shachi Kanayam. Gadgaram Kara Baba Vikaram Durjana Tarjana Nada Bhavaya bhajana karana karanam tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam. Arunam Bharagara Charukapolam Induvinindita Nakachaya Richiram Jalhita Nija Guna Nama Vinodam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Vigarita Nayana Kamala Jaladharam Kushana Navarasa Baba Vikaram Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari Ki Jai Katiyati Mantara Nitya Vilasam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Chanchala Charana Gati Ruchiram Manjira Ranjita Padajita Madhuram Chandra Vinindita Shitala Varanam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Kati Dora Kamangalu Dandam Divyakalevara Mundita Mundam Sujana Kalmacha Kandana Dandam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Bhushana Bhuraja Alakavalitam Kampita Vindara Ratsaruchiram Vararuchiram Malayaja Vilachita Ujvala Tilakam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Indikaruna Kamaladalanayanam Ajanulam Vita Shri Bhuja Bhugalam Klevara Kaishora Nartaka Vesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Sudrala Varana Suravara Deham Sivachita Niravari Baba Videham Pavana Kripaya Lesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Hey, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaura Hari. Sachinandana Jaya Gaura Hari. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Gaura Hari Bol. Go Premanande Hari Bol. Bhagavad-gita, chapter 17, please. Shadavibha, Trayavibhag Yoga Nama. Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Gaura Hari. Shadachaya Vibhag Yoga Nama Atha Shaptadashodhyayaha. Arjuna Vacha Te Shastra Vidnamutstrijya Yajante Shadayanvita Te Shanishta Tukha Krishna Satvamaho Rajastama. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trivida Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Chetitam Shrinu Sattvanurupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata Shraddha Mayo Yam Purusho Yo Yach Shraddha Sa Eva Sa Yajante Satvika Devan Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasa Pretan Bhuta Gunam Chanye Yajante Tamasa Jana Ashastra Vihitam Ghoram Tapyante ye tapojana Dambhahankara samyukta Kama raga balanvita Karshayanta sharirastam Bhutagrama machetasaha Mam chaivanta sharirastam Tan Yasura Nishchayan Aharastvapi Sarvasya Trividho Bhavati Priya Yagnastapastata Danam Tesham Vedam Imam Shrinu Ayu Sattva Balarogya Sukha Priti Vivardhana Rasya Snigdha Stira Hridya Ahara Satvika Priya Katvam Lavanat Yushna Tikshna Ruksha Vidahina Ahara Rajasa Sheshta Dukkha Shoka Maya Prada Yata Yamam Gatarasam Huti Paryushitam Chayat Uchishtam Apicha Medyam Bojanam Tamasapriyam Apala Kankshibir Yagno Vidhi Dishto Yaijate Yashtavyam Evati Mana Samadaya Sasatvika Abhisandaya tu palam Dambhartam apichaivayat Ijjate bharata shreshta Tam yagnam viti rajasam Vidihinam arshishtanam Mantrahinam adakshanam Shraddha vidahitam yagnam Tamasam paricakshate Deva Dvija Guru Pragna Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam brahmacharyam ahimsa cha shariram tapa uchyate anuvega karam bhakyam satyam priya hitam cha yat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate manak prasada saumyatvam maunamatma vinigraha bhava samshuddhir ityetat tapo manasamuchyate shraddhaya paraya taptam tapas tatrividham narai apala kangshibir yuktai satvikam parichakshate satkara manapujartam tapodambena chaiva yat kriyate tadiha proktam rajasam chalamadruvam mudha grahinatmano yat hidaya kriyate tapaha parasyotsādanārtam vā tattamasam udharitam dātavyam iti yaddānam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam yattu pakarartam palam uddishya vapunaha diyate cha parakrishtam taddanam rajasam smritam adesha kaliyaddanam apatrebhyascha diyate asatkritam avagnatam tattamasam udharitam om tat sat iti nirdesho brahmanastri vidasmrita brahmanastena vedascha yagnascha vihita pura tasmad om ityudaritya yagna dana tapakriya pravartante vidhanokta satatam brahmavadinam tad ityana visandaya palam yagna tapakriya dana kriyascha vidvidha kriyante moksha kangshibi sadbhave sadhu bhave cha sat ityetat prayujyate prashaste karmani tata shat shabda partha yujyate yagne tapasidane cha stiti sat iti chochyate karma chaiva tadartiyam sat ityeva bhadhiyate ashradhaya hutam datam tapas taptam kritam chayat asat ityuchyate partha na chatat pretya no iha. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad-gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambhade Shraddhatraya Vibhag Yogo Nama Saptadrshodhyayaha Hari Om. Translations, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Kudasai. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of Scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds, in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. O son of Bharat, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons, and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances, not recommended in the Scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the supersoul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness. But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion. Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of Scripture, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns and remunerations to the priests, and without faith is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and nonviolence. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. This threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits, but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in goodness. Penance performed out of pride and for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent. Penance performed out of foolishness, with self-torture, or to destroy or injure others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. But charity performed with the expectation of some return, or with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion. And charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, to unworthy persons, or without proper attention and respect, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional service, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifices also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which true to the absolute nature are performed to please the Supreme Person, O Sanaprata. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O Sanaprata, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life or in the next. And in the next. Namasheshtam manamapi sachiputra matra sarupam sirupam tasyagrajamuruparim maturim goshtivatim radha kundam girivaramoho radhika madhavasham rapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tannatosmi namasheshtam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namasheshtam manamapi shatiputra matra sarupam sirupam tasyagrajam uruparim matarim goshtavatim radha kundam girivaramoho radhika madhavasham rapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tam natosmi. He Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Swanandadata Koronaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahitavata Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara. He Dinabandho Koronaika Sindho Guru Prasadam Mai Mandamude Laksha Parade Bahupapa Gadhe Tatpada Padme Sumatishta Krishna Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayasta Vesha Ramayusha Pikritam Riddhamudasvaranta Yontar Bahistanubritam Ashubham Badunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Yanakti. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kunds and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava and Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. His lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagavati Sadma Bando Mui Savadana Ma Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavato Viyaja Krishna Prapti Oi Jaha Krishna Prapti Oi Jaha Shri Guru Charane Rate Eshe Uttama Gate Jeta Sare Pure Sarva Nama Om Vishnu Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nam bhajan. More Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Jai Om Vishwapad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotra Satishi Shiman Abhay Charanara Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishwapad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotra Satishi Shiman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Zagahok Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navaditam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Sambeta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Thank you. Hare Ram Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. As you know, the program's a little different this morning. There is a light breakfast, if anyone would care. It's just ready out there anytime you'd like. And there'll be a break from, I think, like 9:30 to 9:45, where Kirtan will start again. And then the program, the Shraddha program for Hari Prabhu will start at 10 a.m. and there'll be a feast at 11:30.
But I'll remind you of a verse from the 10th canto, 2nd chapter that says, Nai shati dushaha shunmam taktodam abhadite pibantan twan mukamboja chutam harikatamritam. That's Parikshit Maharaj. He said, now that I'm hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, and I'm not tired, which is remarkable because he wasn't sleeping or eating at all, or drinking. Hint, hint. No, please take prasad. Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Today we'll be looking at a verse from the 10th canto, 33rd chapter, verse number 36, in anticipation of the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu coming up just, is it next week? Yes. Next week. Which day next week? Huh? Next to next Monday. Okay. It's coming up soon, and being in an anticipatory state regarding the Lord's appearance is vital, because we have a relationship with Krishna, and when we become emotionally invested in that relationship, this is one of the definitions of devotional service in Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma nyanavritam anukulyena krishnana shilanam bhaktiruchite. He uses the verb shil, S-I-L, long I, S-H, as if S-H, is a kind of cultivation. Means that you have to do something. There's something to do. Devotional service has two features. One feature is that we engage our external senses in favorable service towards the Lord. And another is called the internal cultivation, which means you're not actively engaging your senses, but emotionally you're cultivating an attachment for the Lord. And this is vital because our heart, which is the seat of emotion, is our driver. In the way that the heart is developed, that's the way we go. As we just heard from the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, one's heart becomes filled with various modes of nature. We acquire modes of nature. We know how to do that. If you go and sit in a sangha anywhere in the world, you know that eventually you'll acquire the same modes as the people that are in that assembly. You may study the same types of things that they do as well, to come up to a particular level of understanding of something, but you also acquire their mode, their way of speaking, their way of eating, dressing, and so forth. It's natural for humans. Bhakti, in which case, is very natural to us in that we simply analyze that there is a higher destination, and that to attain that we require association and a kind of cultivation of transcendental qualities and activities. And as we do that, we also begin to develop a sense of emotion in the heart, attachment to the Lord's qualities, His places of pastimes. We also, Shantir avyarta kalatvam, viraktir mana shunyata, ashabanda kala shanta, namagani sadaruchi. It's a description of the emotional states of heart and their results in the way we work in the world, given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, which he describes, does Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we'll develop a sense of forgiveness. We let go of a lot of the minor transgressions of the world. Minor, Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die, and he said, that's all right, no problem. Shantir avyarta kalatvam, we don't want to waste time because we have a sense that our investment of time and attention is the most important investment that we have, and we don't want to miss it. As much as a person who's astute in investing knows that time is of the essence. If you have $1 to invest, there's a huge difference between investing it today and investing it tomorrow because of the time factor of compounded interest. And so a person who's eager to earn money doesn't waste a second. And in a similar way, a person who's eager to advance in devotional service doesn't want to waste a second, realizing that it's the fortune of a lifetime, of many lifetimes, to be able to engage in devotional service. Avyarta kalatvam viraktir means that one develops a detachment from other things that aren't related to Krishna. Mana shunyata becomes free from the sense of, I want to be recognized for my services. Namagana Sadaruchi means they're always attached to the holy name, eager to hear about and live in the Lord's places of pastimes, eager to hear about Krishna's pastimes. And so there's a definite change of heart that takes place. And this is the development of bhava, or emotion towards the Lord. And this happens when one becomes purified of the three modes of material nature, which are a kind of contamination for the soul. That is described throughout the Bhagavad-gita. In one place, Krishna says, Tribir gunamayir bhaverebi sarvam idam jagat. Mohitam nabijanati mamebhya paramavyayam. And that is that everybody is affected by the modes of nature and therefore can't understand their relationship with me. They're bewildered about that. Whereas when one takes to the process of devotional service, acquiring attachment to Krishna in the heart and mind, and also using one's senses in the service of Krishna, there's a way in which one then becomes, as much as one's affected by the modes of material nature and acquires them, in the same way one acquires this purification by the internal energy of the Lord, Shuddha Shatma Visheshatma, the Prema Suryamshu, Samyabhak. This is described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as being like a sun ray from the internal energy of the Lord. If you can hold that in your mind for a moment. That touches the heart. Ruchibish Chitta Mrishrinya. Mrishrinya means that the heart begins to soften. Why? Because Ruchibish, there's an awakening of taste in the heart for associating with Krishna and his place of pastimes, his names, and so forth. This is the awakening of bhava within the heart, and how the heart changes. And as the heart changes, evambrata swa priyanama-kirtya jatanurago chitta chuta ucher asatyate rotiti roti gayatin unmada vanrititi lokabhayaha. One becomes joyful. And to others, it looks like you're perhaps a crazy person. Are you detached from reality? Don't you know that this is a somber place, the material world, and there's heavy things going on here? But the person doesn't live in the material world, whose heart has changed. They relate to the spiritual world, even as they do their best to go on living a somewhat normal life in the material world. So today's verse is very instructive in the way of remembering Krishna, especially his appearances in this world. So let's have a look at it. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. Don't change the screen. Chakshurun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Please go back to the verse. I'm only going to say Om Jnanatimidandasya, born in the darkness of ignorance, but it is the spiritual master who opens my eyes, torchlight of knowledge. Okay, back to the verse, please. So this is 10:33:36. If you get a tattoo on your way home today, you could put this one right here so you can remember. I'll say and please repeat. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham dehamastitaha bhajate tadrishi krida yashrutva tatparo bhave. And here are the word for words. Anugrahaya, to show mercy. So this word is important, to show mercy. And the words, if we look at them, anu means to follow someone. And graha, as we know, those who study astrology, which I don't, graha is a grabber. There are grabbers in the way of the demigods, our karma. It grabs us, it pulls us in a certain direction. So anugrahaya has the sense that somebody is pulling us in the right direction, making us follow the right path. As I may be ready to step off a roof, and then somebody says, oh, no, watch out, grabs and pulls me the other way. And later I might appreciate it. At first I may say, hey, why are you interrupting me? But anugrahaya is somebody deliberately making us follow in the right direction. Bhaktanam, to his devotees. So Krishna especially reciprocates with his devotees. As is mentioned in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dvesho stina priya yeba janti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. I'm equal to everybody. And basically, he doesn't get involved. Once a conditioned soul says, no, I want to stay in the material world. This is my choice. You just honor that. Then Krishna says, okay, I'll give you all facility until you come to the point of saying no mas. Then I'll help you. He wants us to have our own experience and come to our own conclusion. Although he's always waiting, eager for us to come back. Now, when somebody does ye bhajanti, which means that such a soul makes a decision that, no, I'm going to worship Krishna. Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, that person becomes a bhakta or a devotee. Mai te teshu chapyaham. For such a person, I'm directly involved. They live in me and I live in them. Means Krishna's mercy becomes fully apparent in a very personal way. How personal? In the Gita, Krishna also says, Ananyas chintayatamam yejana pariyupasate tesham nityabdyuktanam yoga kshemam bahamyaham. That a person who diverts their attention from the default mode of the material world, which is towards sense objects and towards self-aggrandizement and development of one's own nest egg here in the material world, and says, no, I'll just work for Krishna, and then that's their preoccupation. To such a person, Krishna says, I personally carry what they lack. Vahami means by my own hand, I bring it to them. I am watching out for them at every step. Let's increase the oxygen in the room somehow. Are there any engineers in here? None. You all took liberal arts? Is that what you did? You studied liberal arts? Okay, some engineers here, please figure out how to bring more oxygen in the room. And we'll reward you accordingly how much percentage you can increase it by. Did it go up? Can you feel it? Okay, everyone take two deep breaths at the same, in one breath, take 2 deep breaths at the same time, like, and then out, like, one more time, but don't hyperventilate. See, oxygen, like at Naimisharanya forest. Okay, so the bhaktas, these are those fortunate souls that Krishna describes in the Bhagavad-gita, Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After spending sufficient time in the material world trying to figure it all out by themselves, why they're getting smashed, then they decide, oh, I think I'll surrender to Krishna. And such great souls are very rare in this world. But these are bhaktas, and they're considered by Krishna to be the most wise of all. He specifically shows mercy to them because they're open to it. He's showing mercy to all living beings, no doubt. But the bhaktas are open and eager for that mercy, and therefore it appears that they're getting more mercy. Just like in a class, somebody as a student may sit up close and listen carefully and take notes, and somebody else may be hung over from the night before and sitting in the back not listening. Is that possible? So who learns more? Getting close, yeah. So this is an example given in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or 7th canto, that why is it that it appears that Krishna is partial? No, he's not partial, but some people are open for his mercy. So these are the bhaktas, those who have decided that I'm going to sit up close. I'll sit up in the front and I'll listen very carefully. And no more intoxication from the material world. So now Manusham. Manu means a man. It's like Manu is the father of man. And there's then this form that's given that we have now. Take a look around. 2 hands, 2 feet. You got 5 fingers, 5 toes. 10 fingers, 10 toes. And so forth. You have a human form. It's a big deal. And this is... The human form is mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna appreciates the human form especially because it's at that point that one can start to reciprocate his love. And it's just like with a child, at any point if the child shows some sense of reciprocation of your love, then everyone takes a video and puts it out and it goes viral. It's like, hey, look, he likes me. And he gave me something. But when the child grows up and becomes aware of the fact that, no, I'm being maintained by my parents and they love me and I love them back, then the relationship starts to open up. So in this Manusham, this human form, there's a way that we become capable of reciprocating Krishna's love and taking full advantage of his teachings. So Krishna's expectant of that, and when the human does that, then it's a great celebratory moment. So Krishna also comes in a form like a human. So this is the meaning of Manusham. And Deham means body. So he takes a body that resembles a human's body. What size is he? He's medium size. He fits in with everybody else. So he's called Janani Vasa. He walks around and everyone thinks that he looks kind of like us. Astitaha means he assumes that body. Bhajate, he accepts. Tadrishi, such. Kridha, pastimes. So while he's in that human body, he's not like an ordinary human because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And while he's walking around, Janani Vasa, mixing with people everywhere, he performs wonderful activities that nobody else could do. Yashrutva. Now here comes the part that's very practical. By hearing about these, Yashrutva paro bhavet means that by then remembering those superhuman activities of Krishna. I think that's mentioned in the penultimate verse of the first chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that he performed many superhuman acts. Look it up. I think it's the second. That's the second chapter. There's the first chapter, I think penultimate verse, if you'll look it up. Ya, about which, Shrutva, hearing, Tatpara, dedicated to him, Bhavet, one becomes. So Bhava means it's the verb about becoming something. In fact, the whole material world is called Bhava. And that means it's always becoming something else, which is a little disconcerting for souls like us because we'd like things to stay a little longer than they do. And this means that we become transformed. We become like Krishna. We take on the same qualities as Krishna. How? Yashrutva tatpara. By dedicating our hearing process to hearing about Krishna's pastimes when he appears and when he walks around and performs his pastimes here in the world. What is it? Say the beginning. Kritavan kila karmani saharamena keshava atimartyani bhagavan guda kapatamanushaha. And the translation, please. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. Let's look at the word for word. So, kritavan, kila, karmani. So he's doing things in the world. It's not that God is an impersonal force. Saha Ramina, and he had his brother. If you go to Vrindavan, you can see Krishna Balaram. They're just hanging out there waiting for you. Ramena, Balaram, Keshava, Krishna, Atimartyani. It's superhuman. He does superhuman acts. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Guda. But it's secret. It's like he's doing a play. You can't tell who's behind it all. Kapata, apparently Manusha. It's apparently he's a human being. So this is a parallel verse to what we're looking at today. So we'll go back to today's verse and we'll read the translation and purport and then have a short discussion. We'll actually go back to the other verse. So the translation is, when the Lord assumes, if you're from England, a human-like body to show mercy to his devotees, he engages in such pastimes as will attract those who hear about them to become dedicated to him. So it's very deliberate that Krishna comes here and performs his pastimes. So then they get recorded, and at the time that Krishna appears, there's no internet. Big surprise, right? So how does it spread? People are talking about him all the time. There's discussions about him. There's things that are being compiled and written about his activities, and they start to pass around. So we hear at the Naimisharanya, the sages are all there, and they're saying, yeah, tell us about Krishna. Tell us everything about him. This is a big seminar. It's really important because they're going to disseminate it to other people as well. Then bhavayat yesha satvena lokanvai lokabhavana lila vatarnu rato devatiryandaradishu. And Sudha Goswami is describing that, yeah, he appears in many different forms, on all the different forms of life, even the vegetable tribes. Hey, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said it. All the different ways that Krishna makes himself available in the world just to attract the attention of the conditioned souls. To, like, yeah, that's attractive. That's what's enlivening me. And it's all yashrutva tatparobhavet, that transformation where our attention goes from the material world. Everyone wants to have some hero here in the material world, right? Yes. Cricket. Yeah, the most famous sports person in the world is a cricket player. Did you know that? By any metric, the wealthiest, most famous person, a cricket player. He swings a little bat. I tried it when I was in Japan, and I accidentally hit near Kula with the ball. That's my last foray into cricket, but. Even now, if I even allude to a famous person, everyone's like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I know who that is. And there's a sense of like, yay, there they are. And so we have that natural tendency. So yashrutva tatparobhavet, the process of bhakti is it's exactly the same as material life, except that we change the subject. That's the only thing. Yashrutva tatparobhavet. Now it's about Krishna. And instead of, somebody here in the material world who we're attracted to, that's what we do. We try to find somebody who does something that seems superhuman, And then we say, oh, I like this person, and we become attracted. And we feel happy because, yeah, go, go, go. Okay, so here's the purport. Srila Jiva Goswami explains in this connection that when Lord Krishna descends to this world in his original two-handed form, out of kindness, he manifests that form in a way that his devotees conditioned in human society can perceive and understand. Thus, here it is stated, Manusham deham astitaha. He assumes a human-like body. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur glorifies the Lord's conjugal pastimes, stating that these romantic affairs have an inconceivable spiritual potency to attract the polluted heart of the conditioned souls. It is an undeniable fact that any pure or simple-hearted person who hears narrations of the loving affairs of Krishna. Apparently this requires an IQ. End of the paragraph. I'm going to the book. I like books. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur glorifies the Lord's conjugal pastimes, stating that these romantic affairs have an inconceivable spiritual potency to attract the polluted heart of conditioned souls. It is an undeniable fact that any pure or simple-hearted person who hears narrations of the loving affairs of Krishna will be attracted to the lotus feet of the Lord and gradually become his devotee. So this is the sum and substance of the process of devotional service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day is coming up, not this next Monday, but the Monday after this Monday. Correct? Yes. And we hear about his pastimes. We also hear about his transcendental position. We hear about Krishna's pastimes, and we understand how Krishna comes in various forms, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a very special form of Krishna where he's investigating his own sweetness and the way that his best devotees, or especially his best devotee Srimati Radharani, appreciates him and has a loving sentiment towards him. He wants to experience what that's like. So this is very esoteric. This is one of the ways that we understand Krishna's appearance, that he has his own purposes, and also that he comes specifically to teach a process so that we can follow it. And when he comes, it's a big deal. It's the big deal in the world. Then we can hear about his pastimes, what he did, what he said, and so forth. And those become the transformative, that becomes the transformative factor in our life. Here we can refer to the Shukadev Goswami, Vikriditam Vrajavadubiraham cha Vishnu, Shradhanvitona Shrinu Atavarna Yadya, Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam, Hridrogam Ashva Pahinot Yacharena Tiraha. This is a famous verse spoken by Shukadev Goswami alluded to in this purport. And it also has this word Vikriditam, that there are the activities of Krishna. And specifically mentioned here, and in the verse I just quoted, is the fact that he has loving affairs. He has various relationships with his devotees, and Bhaktim Param, the topmost of those, is his relationship with his girlfriends in the spiritual world. And counterintuitively, by hearing about that, one becomes free from the sense of attachment due to lust here in the material world, which is called the dread disease of the heart that keeps us bound up in the material world in an illusory way. We're attached because the forms here are temporary. They're not real in that sense. But if one hears about Krishna's pastimes with his devotees in the spiritual world, then and becomes consumed by those, anugrahaya bhaktanam, one's pulled along by that, then that's how the transformation takes place, and that's the sum and substance of our process of devotional service. Now we'll take a few questions to expand the subject.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for very nice words. I have two questions. The first is, it says he assumes a human-like body. So I mean, I have like read many times that he comes as Krishna comes in his self-same body here, and it is transcendental. And also, like at the end of 10th canto, when he disappears, we see in the last verses where it is said that, where that funeral is going on, and Krishna's wives also do like goes into that funeral, and in the purports it is said that that it is just Krishna is for Krishna is showing for material. I mean, sorry, that this is just a show for non-believers, yeah. But he comes in the self-same body and he disappears. He actually, there is no burning of the body. But here also it is said, like, the question is like, it sometimes seem that he assumes the body, human body, but we read so many times that he comes in self-same body, which is in spiritual world.
Sure. He appears in many different forms. Bhavayat yesha satvena lokan vai lokabhavana lilava taranurato deva tiryan naradishu. Deva tiryan naradishu. So that's mentioned. The devas, he appears in various forms amongst the devas. Tiryan, animals. Somebody name an animal form of the Lord. Varaha, he appears as the boar. Kurma, as a tortoise. Matsya as a fish, right? Deva Tiryan Naradishu, and also it's a human form, different forms like Ramchandra is there. Parusharam, although be it a little rough around the edges. And Krishna, he has very sweet form, specifically looks just like us. So in this context, Krishna has many different forms, in fact, unlimited forms to accommodate various circumstances or various people in various circumstances. And so it's saying specifically here, he assumes this form. Yes, it's his eternal form, but he could appear in any way. But he comes in this way specifically to appeal to the natural way that we have due to our sense that we're humans, we're attracted, like here's another human, but wait a minute, how did he lift up a mountain? And so forth. So it's in that way. Not that Krishna's as Krishna says in the Gita, avyaktam vyaktamapana manyate mama bhutaya parampama janato mama bhuta maheshwaram mamavyam anutamam. He says, don't think that I was impersonal and now I take in a personal form. This is a misconception, Krishna says. So it's not in that sense that Krishna is assuming a human form. It's just that he's coming in an appropriate form for the circumstances to attract the minds of the people.
So that is a different form from the spiritual world?
No. The Leela, well, in some ways. In fact, going deeper into the matter, we can look at Krishna's birth. And this is mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So there's a narrative that Krishna takes birth in Mathura. Now, if you tell that to any Brajbasi, they'll say, no way. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Prabhupada quotes him in his commentaries to the Bhagavatam, says that Krishna was actually born to Yashoda. It was a regular childbirth. He appears as in the most human way possible, because see what happened in Mathura. Krishna appears in Mathura with 4 arms and a crown and jewelry and as Narayan. Now there's some sentiment that Devaki has, says, oh no, become a baby, because, and this doesn't really make a logical sense that she's saying like, no, become a baby, because if you stay in this, your all-powerful form as Vasudeva, then Kamsa, when he hears God has been born here, then he'll come after you. So she has this anxiety, but nonetheless, there's a sense of reverence and awe that Vasudeva and Devaki has when Krishna appears in his Vasudeva form right there in the prison. However, as described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that baby that was born there, or he was Narayan, he took the form of a little baby so that Vasudeva could carry him to the home of Nanda Maharaj. And there, that Vasudeva form merges into the body of Krishna. And Krishna is the reservoir of all the different forms of the Lord. In fact, there's a place that you can go to right next to the Nrsimha temple at the very tail of Govardhan Hill. There's a kund there where Krishna is said to have performed his pastimes daily with his friends, where he showed all his different Narayan forms and forms of Kurma, Matsya, much to the amusement of his friends. Let's see the turtle again. As far as Nanda and Yashoda are concerned, this was a regular birth. And so where does Maya Devi come from? There were twins. And that's right in the Sanskrit of the verses that actually Anuja. So that, there's a sense that there were two. One followed the other, Anuja. And then he carried back, did Vasudeva, the little girl. He didn't see Krishna at that time. He took the girl back and she appeared. So this is one of the points. Now, how does it answer your question? Krishna acts in his Bhoma Leela in a very human way. More than even Goloka, in a sense, because he actually takes birth here. Of course, we know Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam, it's completely transcendental, but he does so to endear everyone to him. Like, yeah, this is a little baby, he's helpless. If you don't eat, Prabhupada says this, Yashoda is saying to him, if you don't eat, you're going to die. So you eat. I told you to eat, now eat. In fact, that mood is there. Vrindavan Keshav Bharti Maharaj was telling me when he was reconstructing the ashram there at Govardhan, sometimes Rajabhasis would invite him over. Of course, he didn't mix that much, but sometimes it was necessary. And he went there to somebody's house, and so they were getting ready to make an offering. So the way they make an offering there, at least at this one house he went to, they put the paratha or whatever it was on a plate, and they put it in front of Krishna and said, now eat. There's no sahasra shirsha purushaha sahasraksha sahasrabhat. It's like, you eat, Lala, now. And that this is the humanness of Krishna when he comes out in Bhoma Leela, and it appears that he's moving about just like a human being, so everyone can relate to him. But then it's like, hey, how's he holding that hill up? You better help him. And the cowherd boys are holding their sticks up too to hold the mountain. It's like, yeah, we got you, Krishna. Don't worry. We'll hold this for you. And his mother's stressing that, you're holding the hill. You're not eating. How are you going to, you need your nourishment. So this is the Bhoma Leela. There's that sense. And there's a real sense of danger there when Krishna's enveloped in the coils of Kaliya. For instance, they're not thinking like, oh, he's superhuman, he'll break out of that at any minute. They're just thinking, my little baby's in there. I mean, how heart-rending is that when you see your little child in danger of a huge monster? And, Krishna's there, like just invoking that mood from the residents, like he knows what he's doing. And it's bringing out that sense of, like, our baby, he's there. He's in the coils of this horrible, poisonous monster. So that's that, and when he leaves the world, as you mentioned, he accommodates everybody. If somebody wants to be invested in the material world, Krishna takes it as his duty to create a scenario by which they can say, yeah, see, I told you. In fact, the Srimad Bhagavatam Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions in his commentary, is like Mohini Murti in this sense. Mohini Murti then is, if you want to be cheated, she'll come along and say, hey, you want some nectar? It's like, you just hold on a minute. I'm going to give it to the demigods first, And they all, she didn't even say she was going to give any to them. They just said, well, I trust you. And she cheated the demons. So those who want to be cheated, they have this sense of wanting to be cheated. Then Krishna also accommodates them as well. Okay, a few more questions. Yes, Prabhu. And there's a couple on the screen. After Hari Murli, then we'll go right to the screen.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So one of the points in the purport that you also emphasized was that for those who are overcome with lust, hearing about the loving affairs of Krishna with his devotees, like the gopis, helps. So it seems like a little bit of a contradiction, because I've also heard, we as devotees shouldn't just go straight to the esoteric parts, like the 10th canto, straight away. We should first learn everything before. But at the same time, if we read those things, it's said that we'll overcome these problems. So how do we manage the two?
It's in the verse itself. It says, Vikriditam Rajavadubrihancha Vishnu Shraddhanvito Nashrinuhyat. So this is explained in the commentaries. Shraddhanvito means your faith must be proper in the proper context to understand this. To be able to take full advantage of it, your Shraddha must be clear. If you think, oh, Krishna's an ordinary person, I can do as he's doing, let me imitate him, then yes, that's true. It's counterproductive. But if you've developed the understanding that Krishna is the supreme controller and he's acting like this to accommodate his devotees and exchange love between them, it has nothing to do with lust, then with such a faith, one can take full advantage of such pastimes. Now, we could ask, why did Prabhupada put out the Krishna book that has the Rasa Lila in it before he even finished the Bhagavatam? It said you should finish the first 9 cantos. In fact, you should go back to canto 1 and 2 if you don't feel like you're ready. Once you're done, you can move ahead. So why did Prabhupada put out the Krishna book way ahead of finishing even the 4th canto? In fact, he stopped doing the 4th canto so he could do the summary of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. First thing is, it's vital that people be able to hear about Krishna, and Prabhupada said it's vital for them to see him also. That's why he insisted on 54 color plates, paintings of Krishna in the spiritual world, because most books are Mayavad, and they say that God ultimately doesn't have a personality. And Prabhupada came specifically, Paschatya, was it Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishe Shunyavadi. So to do away with these misconceptions which waylay the soul here in the material world. They take to a religious process and they say, well, you are God. That's a big stumbling block for anybody. Or there is no God. So then they lose this traction that one gets by developing this love for Krishna and appreciation for him that this verse talks about today, that we're able to divert our attention somewhere and actually love and appreciate Krishna. So the answer is that within the Krishna book, Prabhupada builds context. In fact, you'll find that even in the Bhagavatam, in the context of the Rasa Lila, Parikshit Maharaj is looking out and he sees there are many people in the audience. Have you ever had that happen? You're giving a talk and then you look out and that person's not getting it. Or that person's thinking that, what I'm saying here is just not acceptable. It puts a pall over the whole situation. That's why in hearing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, find people that are more advanced than you that have a similar faith. And then hear in that association, because then it's wide open. You can hear forever. You can go for 10, 20, 24 hours a day and feel ecstatic. So at the hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Shukadeva was speaking to Parikshit was noticing, as was Shukadev, there were all kinds of people there. It was an open forum. And therefore Parikshit started putting these questions up. I was like, wait a minute. I thought this was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why are you saying that he danced with other people's wives in the dead of night? How is this even moral? And then Shukadev Goswami says, well, you have to understand the tattva. The tattva is that Krishna is the source of everyone. They're his energies. So actually, they are his wives. They're not somebody else's wives. That's what's immoral. It's somebody thinking like, oh, this is my wife's. Like, not really. That's a temporary arrangement so you can, gradually come to a full realization. But they actually are Krishnas. We're all Krishnas. And so he explains that to put everybody in this point of Shraddhanvita, to have a clear faith, clear context. If you have that, then you can go forward. And the pastimes will eliminate that sense of attachment one has to the false forms of the material world. And one will become, as much as one's attached to the sense of, as much as one's attracted to the reflected forms of this material world, we become that much attached or more to Krishna, the real forms. And when that happens, then we've crossed over the material world. Na rupam asyeha tatopa labhyate nanto na charir na chasam pratishta ashvatamenam savaruram ulama sangha shastrena dridena chitva. This cutting down of the illusory tree, this detachment that he talks about, it means becoming attached to the topics of Krishna and specifically the form of Krishna. Who are you going to think of? And what are you going to think of if he doesn't have activities? So this verse clears that by saying Shraddhanvito. You have to have the right context. Okay, we had Vaikuntha Nayaka was there, and then, there he is now.
Dandavats Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, on this topic, related question to what the Prabhu previously asked. Here, it's mentioned that by hearing the romantic pastimes, the Raslila, this thing, the lust in the conditioned soul vanishes. And here, lust, I guess, is referring to the common usage, right? The excessive or unhealthy sexual attraction, right? But there are these, and there are other definitions of lust that we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita about, Atmendriya Priti or Krishna, that shloka which talks about Atmendriya Priti Vancha Thare Balikam, Krishnendriya Priti Icha Dhare Prem Nam, that is there, right? And there it is not, lust does not refer to excessive sexual attraction, but there the definition given is anything that you do to please your senses is lust, where you try to please Krishna's senses is love. And in third chapter also, towards the end, Krishna says that, okay, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is making you do things which you don't want to do, right? Those things. So my question was that the lust which we understand it here in terms of the sexual attraction and the lust that is having a broader thing defined at the other places, are they all related, or depending on the context, lust has to be understood in different ways, or are they all related? Or if you can please help.
And yes. They're all related. In fact, Prabhupada goes through a long list in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of various anarthas that describe how, let's just say that when we start with the mistaken conception that I'm a physical material body, and I relate to that role that I'm playing as a body, then the desires that emanate from that, they're all considered to be counterproductive because I'm attached to the wrong thing. And they're all part and parcel of the same conception that I am my body. And from there, whatever manifestations are under the umbrella of lust. And sexual attraction, between one body and another is the default mode of the material world. Because it's there in the spiritual world. There's nothing here that's not in the spiritual world. So the Adi Ras is that original attraction between Radha and Krishna and the pastimes in the spiritual world. That gets perverted here in the material world to the degree that it gets a headliner in the Bhagavatam that He says, Bhum sastriya maituni bhavamitam ito mito hridaya grantamahu atogriya kshetra sutata vitara janasya moho yamaham mameti. This verse describes why there's a Home Depot. It's because there's this sense that I have to build a nest. And I was just in Mayapur, we were on the top floor, on the roof, in fact, of the Vaishnava Academy, which is high enough to be in the treetops. And all the birds, what are they doing? Same thing everybody else is doing down below. Build a little nest. Let's sit in it, and we'll have a few babies, and then we'll have to go to Home Depot to get more stuff. And that's why there's Home Depot. That's the whole... Everything's centered in the material world around Home Depot. In fact, Prabhupada said, he used to quote this sociologist who said there wouldn't be any urge for economic development if there wasn't this attachment. And so, maituni bhavametam, that's a legitimate energy. It's not that we say, let's obliterate it, let's hold it back, because you can't. Because it's real. It has its origin in the spiritual world. You've just misdirected it, that's all. It has to be redirected towards Krishna. And when you do that, then you become supremely happy. And the same urge that you have to, I want to love, I want to invest all my energy, and all that goes into the right account. Okay, somebody else is up on the big board, on the Jumbotron.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I just had a reflection to share. I really liked it when you first, in the very beginning of your class, you said how Rupa Goswami describes two limbs to devotional service, which is external, and the second one is internal. So internal, we cultivate emotional attachment for the Lord by hearing and meditating on his pastimes. I could totally understand that we could even when we're doing our daily duties and daily chores, we could even do it as a devotional service by constantly meditating on him, by listening to Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gita. So that was, I know it's a known fact, but what you said was it really was enlightening. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. And so that's a holistic process. Externally, we're engaging our senses, and the senses become purified. Sarvapadi vanirmuktam tapratvena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchate. There's a way in which, by engaging our senses in Krishna's service, they become purified. And by hearing about Krishna and remembering him, then Om apavitra pavitrova sarvavastam katobiva yasmare pundarikaksham sababhya abhyantara shuchi. And we become purified inwardly and outwardly, and there is this development of internal attachment to Krishna and emotions based on one's attachment. Of course, we should know that it's scientific in that Shukadev Goswami mentions that if you are actually developing these sentiments for Krishna in your heart, it will be manifest in the way you interact with the world. Specifically that you're not still attached to the relationships based on material lust in the material world. That becomes replaced. So it's in the form of virakti, that I'm not interested in anything material. Okay, a couple more questions or comments, please. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I really liked when you were talking about the transformation that happens when we get in connection with Krishna. And Krishna is equal to everyone. He's not partial. And I was remembering the pastime of the demons, Hiranyaksh, when he has a fight with Krishna, and in the last, after giving him a good fight, when he falls down and he's died, the demigods actually see his face is very, very, very effulgent, and the purport Prabhupada says that when Krishna comes in contact with you, you become very effulgent. And the same is mentioned when Putana dies, and when her body is now being burnt, the coward boys they cut their body, and the fragrance comes out of her body, and it spreads miles and miles. So, what to speak of us if we can serve Krishna? These are just demons. They demonstrated all these things, like they become effulgent, they become fragrant. And so, similarly, when we serve Krishna, what to speak of what will happen to us? So, it was really very, very transformative when we work for Krishna in love. Yeah.
Yeah, those are nice points. Thank you. Who's next? 1, 2, 3.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. In context of today's discussion about Krishna's human-like form, I have this question in my mind from some time, which is regarding the complexion of Krishna, which is described as bluish black. So my doubt or my question is that, in the one of the verse, it says so masked like a human. If we look at somebody who has a very different type of complexion, it might become very apparent that, oh, you don't really look like a human. So, like we also heard that Lord Ramachandra was emerald green, and previous incarnations were yellow, red, and white in complexion. So I have this doubt about the complexion, Krishna's complexion especially.
I see. Well, I mean, just we can notice that people have different complexions. I mean, I'm looking around now. Everyone has a slightly different complexion, right? So Krishna's complexion is not inordinate, but it's very beautiful. It's not shockingly different. It's blackish, but it's a kind of it's a transcendental complexion because he's transcendental personality, so it's very attractive. And regarding Ramachandra and Balaram and so forth, these are not material complexions that seem to be out of order, but they're just attractive. No one seems to have any problem with it. The way Krishna presents himself is what's being talked about in this verse, is that he fits in with people, although he does have a beautiful complexion or bodily hue that's noticeable, but it doesn't alienate anybody.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I was just having a thought about, Krishna's pastimes and then our present day situation, and I was hoping maybe you can help to connect the two, because there can be a tendency, I noticed in myself and in others, to kind of, when we see Krishna's pastimes, like kind of a sense of, we missed out, and Krishna was there and I wasn't there. And it can even be something that, a sentiment that can come up around the acharyas. Oh, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was there and I wasn't there. I didn't get to meet him, or Prabhupada. And so, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there and I wasn't there. And, there's these pastimes of hearing about how Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and these Shaktivesh avatar devotees, how they connected with and rescued the conditioned souls in really profound ways. And and we're in 2023, ISKCON Silicon Valley, and we're here in the presence of the avatar of the holy name of Krishna, which is said to be more merciful than Krishna himself, and not in any sense less than the personal manifestation of Krishna, personally being present with Krishna as a person. But psychologically, there seems to be a gap in like the sense of, I personally with Krishna and then with Krishna's name, or, with the acharyas and then, but, it's like a different situation. So how do you how does one overcome that sense of distinction that that gives an impersonal sentiment, a sense that, oh, this is more impersonal than a previous situation that I could have been in?
Well, you know, there's an old saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. In fact, the comedian Stephen Wright once said, after hearing that, I gave away everything to find out what I had. Recently, when we were in Mayapur, there was a project to list all of the devotees who had left the world, all the ISKCON devotees, all the Prabhupada's disciples who had already left the world. Nirkula worked on the project, that's why she knows. And there was, in the TOVP, which was the site of the ILS, do you like all these acronyms? ISKCON Leadership Sangha. Anyway, I won't go into it. I'll just say what I have to say, and that is that there was a hallway, quite long hallway, with posters of every Prabhupada disciple who had left the world already. And there was some biodata underneath them. It had a picture of them at an iconic moment. And then, well, not necessarily iconic moment. I'll get to that in a minute. But there was some biodata and a picture of the devotee who had left. For instance, let's say, name a devotee, a Prabhupada disciple who's already left. Bhakti Tirtha Swami was there. Anyone else? Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Vishnu Jana Maharaj, yeah. So there's 3. We could keep naming more. So then this hallway, I walked down the hallway and I recognized everybody. Maybe 1-2% I didn't know from somebody who was in Europe and I never met. But almost everybody. And it was a very grounding kind of experience. And here's what it left me with, and I'll get more to your question. Every one of them was a saint. And I thought, how could that be? Because as we're moving about the world, everyone feels like, well, it's not me. And this isn't the time. The time was 500 years ago. That's when the saints were. And there's a purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Prabhupada quotes Narottam Das Thakur in Gaurangara Duti Pada. And in that bhajan, Narottam Das Thakur is saying that don't just think that all the liberated souls were at the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said anyone who's in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also a nitya siddha, not just a liberated soul. It's like, yeah, not the real liberation. You're just kind of liberated. No, he says they're nitya siddha. And so I had this visceral experience of walking up and down the hallway, and when I couldn't find any one of them that I didn't think, there's a saint. There was this, it was palpable that seeing them there and then just realizing that they had given their whole lives, or most of their lives. In some case, some of them had even come and gone at some point. But the trajectory of their life was all for Krishna. And then when I walked out, I thought, how could it be? Every one of them was a saint. And it's not just sentiment. It was, perhaps it is sentiment, but it's a spiritual sentiment, I think. And I can back it up with Shastra. But I had a direct experience that these were all saints. And then I was thinking like, yeah, but, not me. And what about all these other people that are like, oh, he's, whoever he is, what did he do wrong? But in the ultimate sense, when you look at it all, a human life dedicated to Krishna consciousness with all one's foibles and so forth, you're coming out as a saint out of this. I hate to tell everybody this, but don't get puffed up. But you're going to be on a wall somewhere too, pretty soon. This is one aspect. We always think once somebody leaves that their stocks go way up, because we can afford also to appreciate them more, because it's like, well, we'll appreciate them while they're alive, but not too much. But after they leave, it's like, Haribol! Now, that's one aspect of it, that actually we realize in time. And of course, we all have an appreciating capacity, and that's what we're doing. Prabhupada mentions this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that every soul has an appreciating capacity. When you're in the body of an animal, it's not as great. You don't have this idea of causality or a perceptual horizon that's very far from just here's a bowl of food or here's my house that I built as a beaver or something like that. But human beings can expansively think about these things and extend them and then realize gratitude that there's a person behind everything and they can develop this. So that's what we're doing. So to the degree that we apply ourselves to Krishna consciousness throughout our lifetime, to that degree we do close the gap. And we can live in complete gratitude at every second. That is appreciating that Krishna's doing everything. And he's doing it for me personally. Just as much as when the cowherd boys were sitting with Krishna, they were all feeling like, he's just talking to me. He's looking at me. He's feeding me. Krishna can do that. He is with all of us all at the same time. And that is something that we can definitely realize in this lifetime, and we can realize that Krishna and his name are non-different and so forth. And you will, and you are. But it'll become more and more as we continue the process. And there is no alternative to this way for men. Kurvan eveha karmani jijivishekshatam samaha evam twainanyate tosti nakarma lipitenare. There's no other alternative to this. This is real life. That's what Krishna consciousness means. You're getting your life back, your real life. You've been doing business as some other person. Like, who are you? It's like, Roger, make up a name. That's not really you. That's just a temporary doing business as designation in the material world. Okay, well, now we have an opportunity to have a few announcements. Is this time for announcements, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, no breaks. I couldn't hear what you said, so I think you said no breaks. So let's have a couple quick announcements. First one, we're going to hear about Bhakti Community. So tell us what we've won and where the opportunities are in a short, brief explanation. And then we'll hear about our Sankirtan. And then everyone gets a break.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, everyone. We want to announce about the Bhakti community. It's an online community for any newcomers that you get in touch with, especially when you give books. Please introduce them to Bhakti community. We have some flyers which you can use to talk about Bhakti community. And when you introduce them, make sure that you join them on the Zoom calls. Be with them. Don't just leave them after you've given the books. Once you've given the books, that's just the beginning of their spiritual journey. So we want to help you, help your newcomers to join the community. And we have a lot of programs pipeline during the entire week from Monday to Sunday. And you can check with me on the actual programs. Bottom line is that this is the only way we can pay forward to what we all have got. So please encourage everyone to join Bhakti community. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Malini, wherever you are, please tell us how things are going, what we're engaged in, what goal we're inching towards.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances of the Prabhupada. We have a goal of distributing at least 108 Chaitanya Charitamrita sets by Gaur Purnima, and we are slowly inching towards our goal. I just wanted to share that people are ready to take Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita, because last week when we knocked the door was blocked by 2 cats. So we thought and they were just sleeping at the door. So we were not sure if we should knock the door or not. So what we did was we knocked the window of that person a little far away. And we knocked the window for a couple of times and nobody came out. So we thought nobody's there interested. We left. But after 2 minutes, a person came out, and he crossed the cats and say, "Hi, did you knock my window?" And he came outside, and it turned out to be the person who was hearing online podcasts, and he took Chaitanya Charitamrita very, very happily, even without thinking for a few minutes. So I think everybody is ready if you just try and knock and see. Even if there are obstacles like cats or dogs or something, it doesn't matter because Mahaprabhu gave the mercy to everybody in the Jharikanda forest. So we have a lot of teams going out today. We have door-to-door in Fremont, San Ramon, and we have Western Sankirtan team going to many places. And also a report from last week is also that youth Sankirtan team went to Santa Cruz. They did really, really good. They distributed, I think, 2 or 3 Chaitanya Charitamritas at the Santa Cruz downtown. So that was huge. Kameshwari took them out last time. So that was big news last week. That's all, Prabhu, for now.
Malini,
Yes, Prabhu.
do any of the sets that I distributed in Mayapur count?
Yes, Prabhu. We are. I'm working with Sudhir Madhav Prabhu, and we are trying to see if all of them can count towards ISP. So we are working out those details, Prabhu. So that would include 50 sets from Sriram Mayapur.
Okay, just 50, that's it, huh? There was 50 at Nityananda's appearance day and another 30 from the Bhagavatam class. But
Okay,
I don't
Prabhu,
know, some of them escaped. It was really hard. Some people raised their hand and then they got away.
Okay, Prabhu. I'm still waiting for the final
All
list
right,
from Sudhir
whatever
Madhav
it is.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll count them. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So now there's breakfast for everybody already ready and available. Is that correct? Sharirat Vijajao Jorendriya Taheka Jive Pele Vishaya Shagare Dharma Divayati Loba Moisu Durmati Take Jeta Tita Shanshare Krishna Borodoya Moy Kori Bare Jihva Joy Swaprasadana Dilobai Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunadao Preme Dato Sri Chaitanya Nita Preme Dato Sri Chaitanya Nita Mahaprasade Govinde Swami Vaishnave Sattvapunya Vatam Rajan Vishvaso Navijayate Prasade Saravaditana Aniraksho Vijayate Prasana Chaita Soyashi Udipaya Vishtate Tayo Pavita Swanyanda Vasavankara Kachitaha Utishta Bojino Dasa Savamaya Devahi Bhagavad Shri Mahaprasad Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Please come take prasadam, Hari Bol. And we have a memorial service starting at 10 o'clock a.m.